Okay, legends, I know it's been a hot minute, but we are finally back in the shed and back into the project boat. Now, a bit of confession, I have already thrown it on the water, but that's for good reason. I had to do a leak test and test everything we've done, and I didn't just want to drag a camera around everywhere because I really wanted to get in nice and tight and just make sure that everything was as it should be. And I did find a few leaks, I found a split hose, I found a few things. Typically everything I haven't replaced is the problem. So we're going to get stuck into that today. I'm going to show you what I found. I've also got some replacement goodies and some new goodies, so I'll quickly show you what's going on here. So as part of our test, we found out that the Sonic Hub, which is the sound system black box, fried. It's all corroded inside. You can kind of see on the screws there, a bit of corrosion starting to happen already. So that died. I put a Instagram story up saying what black box sound system would you recommend, because we've got limited room and I didn't want a big stereo front facing on the console, and popular vote was this Fusion Jobby. So it's a very similar black box design. It's a bit smaller, a fair bit lighter actually, and it just comes with this kick-ass little kind of round dash mount thing if we need that. Otherwise you can just Bluetooth it. So we're going to throw that in today. On top of that, over here we have our bow mount sounder set up. So we have a quick release sounder post here. These are actually 3D printed, which I really like the idea of instead of alloy, because we have no corrosion issues. So we've got that. We've got our quick release D-ball pucks for our active target handle, and we have a new sounder power cable that I also have to wire in the front here. So that allows me to have a sounder on the bow for active target when I need it. When I don't need it, I just unplug it. All the plugs go in the anchor hatch, and that whole setup just comes off the puck and I can throw it away in a hatch. Happy days. If I don't go fishing with the active target, it doesn't even have to come in the boat. So that's also going in. I have to find out how to mount those, because as you can see here, there's no access to the underside of the gunnel apart from the speaker hole. So I'm going to have to take the speaker off, kind of get under there to through bolt and make sure it's watertight, because whatever can seep through any screw holes or bolt holes in the combing there can leak into the boat, and I want to eliminate that altogether. So where I can, I'm going to mount things on the underface of hatches, both front and back, so that if there ever is a leak, it'll drain into the hatch and that's all plumbed. I'm going to try and stay away from bolting stuff to bits of fiberglass that just drain into the hole. Anyone who's dealt with fiberglass boats, especially American imports, the foam-filled double skin shoebox variety, where it's two moulds kind of bonded together, once water or anything gets in that void, there's no getting it out unless you cut the boat apart. So all the holes that we are going to put in, we're going to make sure there's no holes going into those sections. So apart from that, we've got the full console wired up, ready to go. We have our custom rail here that we got welded up by the legends at First Light Fabrication. That holds our Simrad 12-inch Evo NSS3. That's one of the ones that came with the boat. Sorry, Yamaha gauges. We got two brand new land gauges. During the water test, the fuel wasn't reading, but that was totally my fault. I just got the plugs the wrong way around on one of them. So that's all working now. Throttle position's good. We've got a wireless phone charger there. When we went out to we tested the Lithium talking to the Victron. That was all via the back and wired up. Everything was talking to each other. Everything was working fine. All the apps were reading perfect. So we had a big win there. What else have we done here? Let's see, put that wheel up, see if I can pull. Oh, there's a screw in that. Okay, I just did screw that in. So in amongst all that too, I'll show you when we pull it out later, but I drilled a hole in the base of that and mounted a drain, which we're going to put a hose to, which will drain into the bilge compartment. So if that hatch ever gets water in it, it's going to drain out of the hatch. It's not just going to fill up full of water as a watertight compartment. That was quite handy. That had phone, keys, Minn Kota, not Minn Kota, motor guide, Mozolio. Fits quite a lot of stuff in there, so that's quite handy. And yeah, apart from that, the 12 volt is all done now. I've got full waterproof sealed cable ducts. That thing there was an absolute pain in the arse to install, basically because I have so many cables running through it. I've got 5 running through that one alone. So that was very fit. That took me nearly a whole day just to sort all that out, get it all working properly, and actually squeeze it together to the point where I could get it all screwed off. So that is done now. There is a windscreen going here that I've planned out that's getting laser cut, but the legends that who are doing that are flat out at the moment, so I'm not counting on that anytime soon. They're just going to get to it when they can, which is totally fine. So we will have a Perspex windscreen here. I think it's going to be maybe tinted grey or tinted black, and that'll just stop that initial spray hitting the back of the electronics there and kind of deter some of the water there. Tested the cushions, we had all them on, everything works now. There was a little bit of a mishap when we first got that one done. It was made a little bit skew-if because they went off the old cushion, but I asked for thicker foam, so we went from 50 to 75 high density, and they used the same, they unstitched it, used the same template and stitched it back together, and obviously because of the additional height, everything kind of shrunk by 20 odd mil or 30 mil and nothing lined up really well, so we had to get that redone. But apart from that, those guys were totally fine about that, really good to deal with, and they fixed that, no dramas whatsoever. And backrest is awesome. It's a 3-person wide seat, so that's absolutely amazing. All of our stainless steel hatches have been replaced. I've replaced the bait tank one, I've replaced the rear one, I've replaced this one. We've got 2 brand new lockable hatches here, the key, and it just locks it, so when we've got our rods in the gunnels there, we can actually lock that. And so like if we're camping at night, or I stop off at the pub on the way home for a sneaky beer, the hatches can be locked, all my rods can stay in there, no one can get to anything. So yeah, apart from that, we found one leaky hose in the bilge, which is the main hose that goes from the bait tank drain out the transom, and that's a very thick hose, so that's got a split in it and it was leaking quite bad. So that was basically the only leak in the whole boat, which I'm super happy about, because that was my main concern, is that because the boat had been sitting for so long not used when I got it, I was worried the hoses were going to dry out, and when they got wet, stuff would start cracking and leaking and I wouldn't be able to get to it. So the hose that I found is a pain in the ass to get to, but I can get to it, so you'll probably see my feet poking out of a hole in some point of this video, and while I get that out, then I've got to match that hose size, get a replacement, and we should be good, watertight. So without further ado, we're going to get into wiring some stuff up. So first cab off the rank is this stereo. I want to make sure that works, hook it up to the speakers, NMEA hooks up to it, that also hooks up to the sounders, so we can run it via Bluetooth, via the sounder, or or via the remote. So 3 options there, and yeah, so first cab off the rank is that, so we'll get into some more wiring. Yippee, let's get into it. Okay, so we got our old Sonic hub here, and it's just got the power cable coming out of it, which went to a Deutsch connector. The Deutsch connector's still in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this, have a look at the wires and where they go on the plug, and then we've got a very similar setup on this one here. So if the wires match, I'm just going to do a join in the middle with my waterproof connectors so I can keep the Deutsch plug connector on, and that allows me to remove the whole unit to keep this in, and then all the wiring will be the same. So just looking at that now, top side to top side, everything looks pretty identical wiring wise, so I think we'll be pretty good. I might have to change one or two, so you'll see those there. We've just got our coloured wiring side of things. So it's the new plug, it's the old one. We're going to strip this one off, see whether we can reuse the Deutsch connector with the wires, hook the same colours up to the same colours, and then it should be plug and play. And apart from the remote, that is the only cable I need to plug in. So we'll cordon the rest off, make sure they're watertight and airtight, because even the salt air will start corroding those open pins, which is what happened to this one. That was the downfall of the old Sonic Hub. It just started corroding from the salt air and moisture. So with the new one, we've got a few open ports on the bottom there. So you'll see that it's still got a fair bit of room for corrosion. So we'll plug ports in where we can. Where we can't plug ports in, we'll just tape them off and make sure they're nice and sealed, put some anti-corrosion grease in there so it's salt air can't just build up moisture in there, and then good to go. So strip these plugs and see what we're working with. So we have finished connecting our harness. So everything's been done in double wall heat shrink, and that means that every time I heat that up, a layer of resin comes out of the heat shrink and fully seals that from all air, salt, you name it. So that's all been matched up wire for wire. The only difference is this little yellow wire here on the old unit used to be the ignition wake up switch. So when you turn the ignition on, it sends power to the unit and wakes it up along with the boat, so that when you turn the boat off, you just haven't got 12 volts running through your stereo draining your battery. So in the new harness, that is connected through the positive, so the actual power draw is directly from the ignition instead of through a separate circuit and a separate wake up wire. So we've got to run a wire from our ignition switch down to this harness. So when we turn it on, it powers the unit on, and apart from that, we're sweet. So tight space inside. I'm going to dive in the console now, extend the loom on the ignition. I've already got a wake up wire coming off the loom for our trim tabs. So every time I turn the ignition on, it powers the trim tabs up. So what I'll do is I'll snip that and run two wires. One will be the trim tabs and one will be the stereo. So we'll run that now, get up in there, connect all that, and then once that's done, that's our whole harness plug and play. All the wiring that goes from the speakers currently all the way through the boat to the old plug is as is. That's all happy days. We've checked all the connections, they're all fully sealed, done properly. So it should just be plug and play, and then all we have to do is mount our little remote control dash mount thing here. So this unit won't work without this, so we do have to put it in. I didn't want to cut another hole in this boat in the dash, but I'm going to have to. So there's a good chance I might put that in the Perspex panel we put in for the switch panel, but we'll see where it fits. So wake up wire first, I'll dive under the console, get that sorted, and then this whole harness will just plug into the unit itself. We'll fit the black box, and then it's just the remote, and we're good to go. Well, it's blowing about 30 knots outside. I've got stuff running into the shed everywhere. There's branches and crap falling on the roof, so it might be a bit noisy. Neighbours' dogs going off as well because the branches have fallen down. But we're finally getting somewhere on this wiring on the stereo. So what I've done is I've just done a temporary bridge connection between the ignition switch and the positive and negative and everything, and thrown just a gauge on there to see that everything's getting 12 volts, turns on, turns off as it's meant to, because there's no actual indicator on the stereo unit itself that tells you whether it's on or off. So I'll show you what I've done. So we've got the unit, it's all been wired up per the harness, and I've just got my little 12 volt meter here hooked up to a temporary positive bridge between the ignition wire and the stereo, and that means when I turn the ignition on like so, the gauges come on and power comes on to the stereo. So that's good. And then when I turn the ignition off, gauges are off and there's no power to the stereo. So that's what we want. We don't want the stereo to be drawing power the whole time, only when the ignition's on. That means when the boat's on, the stereo's on, and I can still kill the motor, turn the ignition on, still run tunes, and happy days. So good thing about that too is when the ignition's on, my digital LAN gauges for the Yamaha tell me the voltage as well, so I can tell whether my voltage is dropping or getting drained too low. And yeah, happy days. So we're good, we're good. The wiring component works, which is all we need. Now it's time to just crimp them all, heat shrink them all, and zip tie the harness back together, and that should be everything wired up. And then plug in a NMEA, hook up the remote control, and then we should be able to blast some tunes, see what these new speakers sound like, because I've installed the speakers and haven't had a stereo that works to try them on yet, so we'll see how this all turns out. We're finally getting somewhere. So I've got it all hooked up and functional. I had a bit of an issue getting it to connect with the Bluetooth and through the NMEA. I didn't know what to pick, but it turns out you just got to click Bluetooth on the sounder for the NMEA as well, and it all works hunky-dory. So currently we have my phone holder, which is a chargeable phone holder. I've got it hooked up to a button down here, and then that charges the phone. So the phone stays there. That's linked via Bluetooth to the Fusion Sound Hub there. I've got the remote here, which works perfectly fine, and I can also run it through the sounder because it's NMEA compatible, so it's all wired up through the sounder. So this is the setting I was having trouble with here. So I didn't know what to pick, but it turns out if you just hit Bluetooth, then it links everything up through Bluetooth, which is awesome. So and then we can just hit play, skip tunes, mute it if we need to. You can do the volume through the phone, all through there. So I think I'll just run it through my phone because that's the easiest way to do. I can link it through the sounder, and then I can just change pages on the sounder. It'll always have the little audio bar up there, which is cool. But while I'm running along, I can skip tunes and do whatever I need up here. And man, does this thing crank. Check this out. So that's at 3/4 volume. That's not even full volume. The bass through these speakers is pretty cool. I feel like because I'm travelling forward, the sound's going to come back at me with the wind, so it should work perfectly. If need be, we can look at putting 2 other speakers in the boat somewhere if it's not loud enough, but I'm sure it will be. And happy days. So now all I've got to do is mount all this stereo setup back in the console. We've got our bit of thermalite that we flow coated white in there as a mounting pad, so it's just 4 screws. I'm going to put some Sikaflex on the screw holes themselves, or on the screws themselves, sorry, so when they're in the holes they'll bind up a bit better and stick, because thermalite hasn't got the best holding capacity in the world, but luckily that stereo is nice and light. So yeah, so far so good. So we've got a fully functional stereo, the whole kit and caboodle turns on and off with the ignition, which is what we need, and yeah, happy days. So I'm going to get the screwing that in there, and then that's another job done. And that should be pretty much it for inside the console. And we can move up the front of the boat, start wiring up our second sounder and fitting out our removable sounder mount for active target. So get to screwing this in the console now, we'll get that tidied up, all the wiring strapped up, and then yeah, we'll hit the next job. Okay, now it's time to hook up the front sounder. So all of these things can go down here. Open up our hatch. So that's our network connection to the other sounder. Our cable's here. So I've actually got a plug there so I can disconnect all this stuff nice and quick if I ever need to replace it. So it should be as easy as hooking positive and negative up, which is red and black, and then we have got a wake up wire, which is this one here, which I think connects to yellow from memory, and the blue one just gets tucked away. So that yellow wire basically, or the wake up wire, I think it's the yellow one anyway, I'll just double check that, means when I turn the sounder on, this is connected to the active target module in the console, and the moment I hit power on the sounder, when it boots up, it will talk to the black box in the console for the active target and turn it on automatically. And that's the same with boat sounders. So even if this sounder isn't in the boat and I'm not using the bow mount, and all of a sudden I go, okay, I want to throw the active over just while we're driving, because I'll have a mount down the back and a mount down the front. As soon as I turn that sounder on as well, it will also talk to the black box and wake it up. So no matter which sounder I'm using, it'll automatically tell the active target to turn on, and that way I can use it on front and back sounders. So I have a full bow mount sounder here for casting up current and doing all that stuff up the creeks, and then if we're in strong current, so the current's absolutely ripping past the boat, motor guide's down, spot locking us, and the fish are kind of off to the back corner because I want to cast my lure and let it drift down into their face, I can run an active target pole off the rear corner there and view it off my sounder on the console. So that's the setup we're going with. So the only thing I've got left to do is put a new power cable on. So I did have a power cable that came with it, however the screw lock for the power to make it not fall out the back of the sounder was buggered, so every time you'd wiggle the lead, the sounder would turn off. So that's not good for the sounder and not good having a lead that's half cooked. So 80 bucks, bit exy, but is what it is. We'll hook that up and then we'll have a network cable linking the two sounders so the screen will mirror, as well as power and a wake up wire. So we'll get into that. I actually got pretty lucky with this. I've only got 3 of these little heat shrink connectors left. So they're a lifesaver. I don't know whether I've told you about these things, but I'll see if it'll pick it up there. Might be a bit close. So these, when you heat them up with a heat gun, they actually admit a resin, and when your connection's crimped and then you hit this with the heat gun, this is fully sealed from air and water. So really good little crimps to have on hand. Okay. So just gonna punch one of those on the end of each one there. See if it'll pick that up without me. And then yeah, just connect them to our cables there. Heat shrink over the top, and yeah, we're away. It was all working originally anyway. There wasn't any faults or anything. It was just purely the fact that that plug was dodgy, and I didn't want to put all this effort into this boat only to have the sound to keep cutting out on the bow, especially when it's a bit choppy, because it's not always going to be flat conditions. So if the boat's just going bang bang and the sounder just cuts out, it's probably really not good for the processor and the sounder, because it is basically a computer at this stage with the amount of stuff going on in them. And secondly, it's quite annoying when you're trying to fish. So I've just got to grab my phone and check whether it's the yellow wire. I'm positive it is, but I'll double check whether it's the yellow wire, whether it's the wake up one, because I've only got one crimp left. So we'll check that first and we'll crimp it up. Yeah, all good. Yellow wires, wake up wire, so we're all good there. Crimp away. And we can connect to our little plug that we have here. I've got one in there. Crimp it down. Connect the other two up. I'll bend that one over, trim it off, and then put a bit of heat shrink on the end there, and that just stops any water or anything going down the end and turning it black and ruining the wire if we ever want to use that in the future. And happy days. Shrink them down, we're good to go. Okay, so I thought I'd show you these things too. I've got these end caps. They're from a place called Aqua Marine, I think, Barge, something like that. And they're just screw-on plastic end caps that basically replace the plug in your sounder. So that's the same fitting that would be in your sounder. And they just twist in and make your plugs totally watertight. So if your sounder cables are tucked away or running somewhere that gets wet and you don't want them going all green and the pins corroding and causing issues with voltage drop, and your sounder picture goes all funky, or your sounder just stops working altogether because all the pins in the back start corroding, and I don't think you can replace them. It's basically a new sounder if it gets that bad. Grab a set of these, because basically that means I can throw it in the anchor well. I don't have to worry about my anchor rope or anything being moist, or when I'm hosing the boat down, any salt water residue staying on the ends of the plug pins and corroding them. They'll be completely watertight and airtight, and then I just unscrew it. It hangs off the little lanyard, plugs into the back of the sounder where it's watertight again. So that will make sure the longevity of all my electrical equipment, I don't even know what word I said there, equipment will last as long as possible, because there is 12 volt current running to these currently. Just because it's not plugged into anything, there is still current. So that means it will fizz up quicker than if there wasn't an electrical current going through. So anything with electricity going through it will corrode. So all the measures you can do to stop that happening. These little plugs are an absolute awesome little addition. They're not very cheap, but at the end of the day, they're a lot cheaper than replacing a cable or messing up the back of your sounder or those plugs corroding. So a little bit of an investment at the start, but it should make sure the longevity of everything I've done and replaced doesn't go to poo within the first 12 months. So that's her all wired up right there. Comes out the nice little hatch in the anchor well, and when I'm not using it, tucked away, don't even know it's there. So that is good. The hose fits perfectly in that little cutout there, which just worked out perfect. Not planned, but it worked out really well. So what I'm going to do now is just plug this other sounder unit in and see if she all turns on. Now I'll put it down on this thing because I don't scratch it. You can, I don't know whether you can see, I'll zoom in a bit, but those plugs there are already a bit green and corroded. So this is the front sounder, the sounder that was used up the front, so obviously it copped all the salt water and stuff. So yeah, you can see how quickly stuff can corrode. So we'll plug this guy in. I'll just do power for now because I know the NMEA works and I know the network works. So I'm just going to make sure she powers on and then check that when we do power it on, it turns the active target module on. Okay. She's in. Moment of truth. Nothing. Oh, I might not have a fuse in actually. I don't think I got a fuse in the fuse block. Rookie error. Okay, give me a sec. Okay, so I put the fuse in and it still didn't work and I'm scratching my head going, what the hell is going on? But that yellow wire, the wake up wire, has to get 12 volts going to it to kick the sounder over. So I connected it to the green wire, which I ran all the way through to the active target to wake it up, but it needs a power source to activate that wake up feature, which also turns the sounder on. So I've got to splice in the yellow wire to the positive and then it'll wake up the sounder and boat. So my bad, don't follow me when it comes to 12 volt. I'm learning this shit as I go along as well. I'm just winging it and getting it done myself because I'm too broke to pay anyone to do it. So you're learning with me. So yellow splices with red and then your wake up wire piggybacks off that to the active target. It'll wake everything up. So get back, do that, turn the sounder on, test it, see how we go. Hopefully it works. So that wasn't the problem. So I've got a fault find now. So what I'm going to do is start from the start, from the fuse block, and work my way back forward and see what's going on, because yeah, just no power to the very front, but the fuse block has power. So we're going to go connection. We've got a Deutsch plug connector and a fuse block, could be that, who knows. So right now I've just got the light on in there. I've pulled the negative out of Deutsch, connected it. We've got 13.44 volts from the lithium. So that means we have good power going to the Deutsch connector. So it's between the plug and the front somewhere. So it might be the cable, might be something, who knows. So I'm going to start there, work my way to the front, fault find, see where it goes. Shouldn't be too hard to find where the issue is, but we'll see. Interesting to see what it is. We'll see. Success. We have power. And it was as easy as a dodgy earth pin on the Deutsch plug. So yeah, that's a good thing. And it also goes to show knowing the wiring in your boat when you're doing it and how you make it easier to trace stuff by labelling it and fusing it properly and doing everything. So if one thing doesn't work, you just go to your fuse block, bow mount sounder, trace the wire, it's all nice and neat, it's not all bundled up and wrapped up and spliced and all different coloured wires. Straight into a plug, test the plug, plug had 13.4 odd volts or whatever it was, and then on the other side of the plug I was getting nothing. So I checked the internals of the plug and the actual negative sleeve that the pin goes into had pulled completely away. So yeah, it just wasn't seated inside the Deutsch connector properly. Easy as that. And now we have power, which is great. So I'm going to leave it there. I've got a duck in my bilge. As you can probably hear, there is a heap of stuff blowing all over my shed from the big gum tree and the neighbours up the back. And yeah, it's getting on in the day. We've got a family little event planned this afternoon, so going to love yous and leave yous. I've got stuff working now. You can see what's been happening in the boat. Next stage will be the deck armour. There is a delay on that, but for good reason. They've actually sold out Australia-wide in the colour we're after. So if you know you're onto a good thing, the only way you do is because they sell out. So you guys are definitely onto a good thing. But anyway, we're just waiting. Oof, mozzies. We're just waiting on that to land in Australia, and then obviously they got a back order because it's been out of stock and everyone else has been ordering it as well. So as soon as I get to that, we'll be filming that install on the boat. But until then, this boat will be pretty much ready to go. So I've just got to replace that leaky hose at the back. I will be doing another water test, so I think I'll make another quick video with that. We'll show you the battery systems working, charging, everything working. Quick squirt on the water, give you some speed stats. I've got no fuel stats whatsoever. We did nearly get 40 knots out of this thing with the 130 on it. It is rated to 150, and I'm running an alley prop, not a stainless, so this thing is going to be bloody quick. So yeah, should be cool. So next video will be a water test. We'll throw this girl in, give you a bit of a show of it on the water. But it won't be a full rig rundown until we get the deck armour on. Once we get that on, I'll be giving a full rundown of everything in the boat, on the water, how it works, what we've done from start to finish, and yeah, full rig rundown, some smicky footage on it, and then we'll get back into our fishing. So super pumped. We're getting right into the end of it now. So today, stairs are working, front sound are working, a bit of fault finding, and yeah, happy days. Fix the hose, and we should be back on the water. So love yous and leave yous. Until then, stay safe, be happy as always. Thanks for keeping with us throughout this build process. It is taking a bit longer, but you know, when you're doing everything yourself, you can't do everything as quick as if you just dropped it off. Oh, it's a GPS there. As if you dropped it off at a shop and said, I'll see you in 3 weeks. So I'm just getting in when I can, in between everything else that's going on. But so far, so good. It's all working out. So take care, be happy, legends, and we'll see you guys on the next little episode. Cheers.